First question we should ask ourselves when we're factoring a quadratic is my a term 1? And in this case, it's not. That means we need to use a longer method, no shortcuts. So the way this longer method works is we first multiply a times our c term, because remember we're dealing with ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so we multiply those guys, we got negative 15. Now your goal is to think of two numbers that multiply to be negative 15 and add up to be that middle term still, that negative 2. And if you think about it for a little bit, you can play with a couple of numbers. The numbers you should come up with are negative 5 and positive 3. Because negative 5 times positive 3 makes negative 15. Negative 5 plus 3 makes negative 2. So if you compare the first line and the second line, you should see that they're the exact same expression, just one is written differently. One has the magic numbers that we found that kind of make the factoring work, the negative 5 and the 3. So all I did in this next line is I grouped it, and this is a method hopefully you've seen before, factoring by grouping. I put a parentheses around the first two terms and a parentheses around the last two terms. And now I'm going to factor out what's in common in each set. In the first parentheses, only a p can be divided out of both things. And in the second parentheses, both terms, the greatest common factor is just a 1. And one of my teacher rules is that you have to divide something out when you're factoring by grouping, just so you don't forget. We were able to divide out a p from the first parentheses, a 1 from the second parentheses, and now we have two things that are the same. That's something you should always have happen when you try to factor by grouping. We have this guy and this guy. They're the same parentheses. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor out a 3p minus 5 from both of the terms, because we only have two terms. We have this term and this term. Don't forget that terms are the things separated by a plus sign. Both terms had a 3p minus 5 in common, so I factored that out. And the black parentheses is the one with the terms that are left over after I divide a 3p minus 5 out of each term. And if you multiply these two out, it should be the original expression that we started with. So to recap what we did, when a does not equal 1, we have to first multiply a times c, and we can call this our magic number. Can I spell magic? Yes. Okay. 2, the next thing that we do is we find two numbers that multiply to be that magic number, that a times c. The third step is to replace the middle term with that magic pair that we found that multiplies the magic number. Replace the middle term. And then from there, it's something we should have seen before. It's factoring by grouping. So step 4 will be factor by grouping.